Hi, Chad Stanton here. If you ever glued up a tabletop or other project with several wide boards, you know it involves a couple of big challenges. One is keeping the boards aligned during the glue up in order to minimize the amount of sanding to make them flush afterwards. The other challenge is keeping the overall top flat. Perfectly flat, without any cupping or twisting, is the overall goal. But even under the best conditions, you'll probably still get a little bit. It usually can be dealt with when you fasten the top to the table base. Now, to achieve a flat level top, you need to first start with flat, straight, and square boards. Let me show you. So once I've planed and joined the boards, I like to slide a square down each edge. If I see any light under it, I know that it has to go back to the joiner. Then, to check to make sure that the edges are straight and not crowned, I'm going to lay them down and clamp them in the middle. If my boards are crowned, I'm going to see a gap, and that means I have to take either one or both of the boards back to the joiner again. Once you're confident that the edges are straight and square, you can turn your attention to gluing the boards together. Although this top is only 4 boards, I still prefer to glue it in stages, one joint at a time. It takes a little longer, but at this point, I'm after quality, not speed. As I mentioned earlier, keeping the joints flush is an important part of the process. One method I use to accomplish this is by adding biscuits along the edges. This adds another step to the building process, but it greatly simplifies the task of aligning the joints. I've already glued 3 of the 4 boards together, and I'm ready to add the final. Applying glue with a roller makes the step go fast. Since the biscuits are only for alignment, I don't have to worry about glue in the slots. The glued edge grain will be sufficiently strong on its own. The biscuits will keep the boards flush, but the other thing I'm concerned about at this point is the overall flatness of the tabletop. There's a couple of things I can do to achieve this. If I were using standard pipe clamps, I'd place them on both sides of my project to balance the clamping pressure. But in this case, I'm using parallel clamps. They apply a more even pressure, so I'm only using them on one side. Even so, I still center my boards on the clamp heads. At this point, I'm applying just enough pressure to hold the clamps and the parts in place. I still need the boards to be movable while I add my cawls, which is the next thing I do to make sure that the top comes out flat. The bottom cawls, which are already in place, they support the boards and make it easier to position the bottom clamps. I've covered the cawls with tape to prevent the glue from sticking, but I also wipe it away on the top side to avoid pressing it into the grain and creating a hard to remove glue mark. Both the top and bottom cawls have an 1/8 inch crown, which I created on my joiner. The crown counteracts the tendency for the cawls to bow up in the middle when clamped. It also ensures even pressure across the entire top. As you can see, the gaps at the top and bottom are gone, and the cawl is now tight the entire length. Now it's simply a matter of tightening the clamps one last time. Gluing up a tabletop in sections may take longer than doing it all at once, but I get better results this way. Give it a try on your next project, and I think you'll agree.